Thank you, Presiding Officer. First of all, I actually want to thank the Scottish Government for the announcements that were made today regarding additional resource going to different policy areas. But every budget is about challenges and choices, and the challenges the Government of the day faces at the time, and also the choices it proposes to make to deal with those challenges. A decade and a half of Westminster-imposed austerity, coupled with high inflation, has significantly eroded the value of the Scottish Government block grant funding. In addition to an ageing population and strong global economic headwinds, they've left our public services having to meet growing demand within those increasingly challenging settlements. These issues aren't new to any of us in the Chamber, and we know that for the 2024 UK election, Labour campaigned to get rid of the Tories to stop austerity. Now, Mr Mara, Labour can't have it both ways. When they claim austerity came from the Tories at Westminster and that it didn't have an effect on the allocation of the budget that came to this Parliament. The economic illiteracy is an example as to why Anna Sarwar actually was right about the Prime Minister not being up to the job. It also tells me, it also tells me that both the Prime Minister and Anna Sarwar and now Michael Mara are making the case for Scotland to be an independent nation.
Daniel Johnson, briefly.
Both this financial year and next financial year, the block grant had a £5 billion increase. Is that the member's definition of austerity?
Stuart McMillan.
A decade and a half of austerity. That's the point I made, Mr Johnson. That's the point I made. Now, the Tories made a complete mess of running the government, and Labour, with its massive majority in the Commons, are now doing likewise. Now, the National Insurance contributions increase last year is a prime example of that. £400 million coming out of the Scottish budget to actually deal with it. In Inverclyde, the Scottish Government put £2.2 million to Inverclyde Council last year to try to offset the problem. The 8.5% council, I'm sorry, Mr Mara, the 8.5% council tax increase would have been a lot less if that £400 million the National Insurance contributions increase did not happen. So, thanks to Labour, Inverclyde council taxpayers are paying a lot more money, and that's no doubt going to be the case going forward again. I'm sorry, Mr Mara, I've already taken one. Now, this budget, with the limited powers of devolution, delivers on a range of things that will matter and do matter to my constituents. It delivers vital support for families facing cost of living pressures and also strengthens the public services that we will rely on. The new cost of living measures supporting families across Scotland, including the delivery of the new Universal Breakfast Club, offer for primary and school-aged children, and also the additional funding for to extend the wraparound activity clubs in the afternoon and the early evening, are to be welcomed. On health, it means that the health service will have resources it needs to continue reducing waiting times. And also with the hip and knee operations at record low levels, and the longest waiting lists have fallen for 7 months in a row. I also welcome the commitment to replace the ageing Port Glasgow Health Centre, and thank the Health Secretary for accepting the visit to the existing facility last summer. And only in the minds of the Labour Party can a positive announcement be turned into a negative. The announcement today for additional resources to hospices is something that I greatly welcome. I've got regular dialogue with the Chief Executive Officer of Ardgowan Hospice, and I know that he will be pleased with this. However, I do believe there is still a discussion to be had about a more sustainable funding method for hospices across the country. Unlike Craig Hoy and the Tories, I actually do welcome the increase in the Scottish Child payment to £28.20 per week, and also the introduction of the premium payment for £40 per week for eligible children under 12 months. That will help many of my constituents. When Mr Hoy spoke earlier on about the bloated benefits bill, this is part of that. This helps people in my community and also the communities that he represents. I also welcome the extra funding to help keep more children out of poverty from funds initially set aside to mitigate the UK Government's two-child cap. But, Presiding Officer, I am conscious of the time. One other point I do want to touch upon, and that's the additional resource for the neurodevelopmental assessments for care for children and young people. Now, I was a sub on the Education Committee when that particular committee undertook the work last year, and I've had a lot of engagement with constituents in Inverclyde about children with additional support needs. That additional resource will help families in my community, and I warmly welcome that additional resource, in addition to the additional investment within for changing places toilets. That helps people who have got children with additional support needs and disabilities to get out and about in their communities, as compared to being stuck in the house. So these investments, in addition to other ones I've touched upon, and there also are others in the budget, I warmly welcome, and I do commend the budget to the Chamber. Thank you.